Okay guys, we are back. Just wanted to talk a little bit about this valve spring compressor. See right here. Got this thing on, I think it was Amazon for, it might have been like 20 bucks. Which is, it's just unbelievable because I was going to buy, I have an old style one, but with these modern heads, the one I have is more like a Chevy 350 engine and whatnot, but these modern heads with the valves being so down deep, you need these sort of adapters, right? So I could probably get like one of these off the Snap-on truck for like 50 bucks. You know, I was going to, thinking about buying one to adapt to my old compressor, and then, you know, here's this whole thing with, I don't know, I think it was, what would it be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adapters in it. And it's got this sort of a cheap C-frame to it, but so what? You know, it doesn't take a whole lot of power to push them down. And I don't know if any of you guys fabricate, but in my mind, if it wasn't suitable, I would have just cut and lengthened these arms, or open up the width of it by cutting it and, you know, welding in something. But, you know, just thought I'd mention that for 20 bucks. I think that's pretty hard to beat. See if we can do this in real time and hopefully not struggle too much, because sometimes it is a struggle. Okay, so let's get this set here. Okay, so in my case, I got new valve springs, Engine Tech. Let me get that number for you, because I went through heck trying to find valve springs for this engine. Engine Tech. It came with 4 springs per box, and I got these from Rock Auto, because I read a lot of forums about the factory ones, springs actually breaking and dropping a valve, so I thought it was a little too risky. So, you know, this part's obvious, right? It's a beehive type of spring. See that? So the taper goes up like that. It's always a little bit helpful. Remember I said about these retainers here that they have a flat side, so you can always use a little grease, put a little bit of muck on it like that. That'll help hold it in place for you. There you go. Making sure I got the flat side down, which I do. And then, if you can see this, I'm gonna kind of worm this in here a little bit. And then, which valve am I on here? Hang on. Okay. So you could pick out whatever attachment you want to hold that side of the valve in like that. It's just hold it. The only thing it's going to do is hold it. And then we'll come around. Let me see if I get the camera right for you. There you go. So I'm going to come around. I'm going to make some adjustments. Bring myself closer to where we need to be here. Okay. And eventually, there you go. Yep. I'm actually going to put the C-frame above like this because it was binding a little bit. There you go. Eventually, with all things being right, we are going to compress that spring down. So is the camera still right? Yep. Okay. Push that spring down so we have just enough, not necessarily much more than enough. Okay. Let's see. Can we see that? You can see now that the notches in the top of the valve are exposed. I think you can if it'll focus for me. Yeah. All right. Probably that will become a little obvious to you when you're in there doing it. Then, all right, now, there's a million ways to do this, by the way, guys, so I'm sure the comments are going to light up like crazy. This is just how I do it. I'm going to put a little dab of grease on each side of the valve stem. where I intend to stick the keeper. Yeah, little dab. I've had times where I put it on both sides of the keeper, but I find sometimes this makes it tougher because if you touch down on something before you intend to get there, then it just sticks to it. And you never intended, for that to happen. So then, again, I'm going to get another dab of grease. I'm going to pick the large side of the keeper like we talked about it. Make sure that's up. I'm going to use that to stick to it like that. See that? And if you're not too rough with it, it should stay on there long enough for you. Sometimes you get it the first shot, sometimes not. I need the flashlight here for myself. Eyes ain't what they used to be. There you go. That one went right on. That's one. See if we can get just as lucky with the other side. It'd be nice if it went perfect for the purposes of the video. Okay. I'm gonna stick that to it like that. We are going to try to not get in the way of the camera. There you go. That's good. Now, one thing I noticed about this compressor tool, even though it's the spring compressor tool, it's awesome for the money, but it does woggle around a lot. I thought about putting the screw end on the other side, which maybe that might even be how you're supposed to do it, because as you're drawing this spring back up, you got to make sure that the hang on. See if it's, sorry guys, I don't have like a tall tripod, but you don't want. It's not going to focus for me. Long story short, if this retainer hits those keepers in the wrong way, it can kind of knock them loose again. So, the way to deal with that is, I'm probably not going to be able to get a great view, guys. Sorry. My camera's is a little bit too short. I needed to pick a higher one. Hang on, maybe I can space you up with something real quick. I don't have the best video equipment, unfortunately. I'm working on it. All right, here you go. Okay. So what I've been doing to combat that is just, as I'm drawing the spring back up again, just keeping an eye on it and not letting it knock the keepers out of the way. Just be a little bit careful as you go. And once you get in there, once the keepers begin to get into that retainer, there you go, now they're locked. There you go. Now they can't come out. Okay. Let's see how that works out. There you go. So I got enough slack in this thing, we'll get it the heck out of here. There you go. Okay, now, in case I don't have the space to make a separate video segment on this, because I'm not too great at splicing these things together, let's wipe her off here. We'll take a look at what the finished product looks like. I'm going to tell you guys something that I do. Probably all seasoned mechanics would do this. Let's see how she looks. See if I get a close up. There you go. Okay. You see that? There's still a little bit of grease in the way, but don't worry about that. The engine oil will wash that right off in no time. So what I will ultimately do when I have all these in, and I have the ability to turn the head around the other way, actually I'll bring you over here and I'll show you the finished head. So once these are all in, you see those ones? I'm going to give them a sort of a bounce check. I'll show you what I'm going to use. Hang on. Because I want to make sure that they're seated. And there's no chance that that can pop loose once the valve starts slapping up and down. But I'm going to suggest that you use something like this. Brass. In my case, I'm going to use a brass drift like this, or a piece of aluminum. I really wouldn't use the hammer face because it's hardened. Then you're going hardened steel against hardened steel. I'd use anything soft that you got, a piece of aluminum, if you don't have nice brass drifts or anything. And the very, very important part of this is, when this is all done, I'm going to flip this head over. Sorry, it told me low power, cut me out for a minute. But you know, when I put it on the bench, facing the right way, I'm gonna block it off like that, because see that I do not want those valves. You know, obviously it sounds like a stupid mistake, but you don't want to drive those valves right into the bench and bend them. So I'm gonna have see if we can pan out here. I'm gonna have the whole head on the bench like that, you know, floating on a couple blocks. And I'm going to take a drift like this. There you go. And I'm going to hold it really, really straight and give it a couple, 2, 3, 4 taps, just to make sure that those components are well seated. And that will kind of give you the confidence that you know that when that thing's going 100 miles an hour, nothing's going to pop loose. But again, like I said, just make sure you do not accidentally drive your valves. You know, don't drive them down into the bench and bend them. So I know it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but it could happen if you weren't paying attention. Okay, guys, looks like I got to charge this battery up. Talk to you soon.